Hello and welcome to Hardy Party 5 1/2. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
Great.
We have a couple of extra guests today. One of them is this one right here, Alex Sardi.
Well, hold on. I'm usually on the show.
Not you. You're not the extra guest.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
It's our actual guest today.
Oh, okay.
But right now, I was just introducing Alex
Hello, Alex.
to the
Welcome.
show.
Favorite
Yes,
son.
that's right. And so I don't know if you guys heard or not, but the Rangers, they won the World Series.
Yes, they did.
Did you guys know that? Well, today on our podcast, we brought back a guest that we had before. When we had him before, we talked all about his life, his history, how he got into sports broadcasting. And today, we're going to talk all things Rangers. Are you guys ready?
Heck yeah.
Let's do this.
All right, let's go. Here's ERIC Nadel. How's it going?
It's going great. What are you guys up to?
We're good. We're just wearing our Ranger World Championship stuff, you know.
We still celebrate.
Fantastic. It must have really happened. They made shirts.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like, it really happens if you took a picture and you have a T-shirt.
Yeah, that's exactly
That's
right.
it. And there's a trophy going around.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
That's
wild.
right. Yeah, I think Alex, you're going to this. Our son Alex. I think you're going to
Alex.
The awards dinner.
the awards
On the 26th.
dinner on the 26th.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great.
He'll be there because he actually was with a part of this whole Corey's Corner thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you actually gave it the name, didn't you, Alex?
Yeah, I named it. The name's
Nice going.
So, from a broadcaster position, did you notice Section 133, and how did you?
Oh, yeah, we were all over it. We talked about it a lot.
Yeah. How do you think it impacted the team having that?
It helped. I mean, Bochy even talked about it. It definitely injected some life into the team. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like, we've been Ranger fans forever, we've talked about, but I think for me, it's the first time that, like, Ranger fans had a personality.
Mhm.
To me, I mean, I don't go to every game like you do, but it's like we finally had a personality in the stands more than I remember us ever having.
Yeah.
Question. And then the whole thing with Creed, even added to that. And I think this coming year, it's going to, it'll start right at the beginning, right? And it's going to be wild. I think, the crowds are going to be huge and it's going to be very celebratory. It's going to be quite the experience, I think. It's not going to be like anything we've experienced before after the other World Series trips. It's a whole different vibe. It's like we're living in an alternate universe, where the Rangers are heroes. It's so different.
Yeah, it's true.
So I want to start by talking about that last week of the season. Like, the team had been dominant all season, and then in the last week, it seemed like everything faltered, and now they have to fight their way into the wild card. So for you, what was that last week being around the team? What vibe did you get from the team after being so good, and then, oh my gosh, maybe we've lost all this?
Well, the great thing about this team is you never noticed any difference in the vibe. They seem the same in the clubhouse. They seem the same during batting practice. Bochy seemed the same. It all seemed the same. And I think that was probably one of the keys to their getting to where they were with all the ups and downs of the last 2 months of the season. They were dominant for the first 4 months, but they really weren't dominant for the last 2 months of the season. Actually, after they started 40-20, they actually had a losing record the rest of the year.
Oh, wow.
That's how up and down it was. They were 40-20, and then after that, they went 50-52. But I think the fact that they did maintain kind of that emotional equilibrium kept them from ever falling into the kind of a downward spiral, that would knock them out of contention. So the fact that they lost a few games that last week, I don't think it fazed them at all. They were still in the playoffs, and as they headed for Tampa Bay, I'm sure they were confident in winning. We weren't necessarily confident of them winning, especially when we saw Glasnow was going to pitch that first game. But you never know what's going to happen. It's baseball, and the Rangers certainly proved that over the second half of this season.
So, okay, you've been through this a lot, more than any of us. So, do you get to there and you're like, "Oh, this is happening again"? Like in the back of your mind, are you like, "Oh no, here we go again"?
Yeah, I mean, what came back to me was 2012. When the Rangers, all they had to do was win one game in Oakland, and they'd wrap up the division, and it didn't happen. They lost them all, and it just seemed to be the same sort of thing going on. And then guys were getting hurt, and they weren't necessarily playing with the full complement of players, and it did seem like here we go again was definitely happening.
Okay, Alex, you're obviously much younger than this. For you, how is it? You've been a Ranger fan long enough to be disappointed.
Yes.
So how is it feeling for you when you get to that? You're in the last week of the season. You finally make the playoffs. What were you feeling like?
I was number one excited because I knew we could beat Tampa Bay and the Orioles. I knew the Orioles were young, so I was scared about the Astros. The Astros had me so scared the entire time. I was like, we can have our fun with these first two ones, and then after that, maybe that's the end of our run. But we pulled through. But being just 21 years old, it's like I'm a fan of the Thunder and the Rangers, like my two teams, and I've never seen anyone win.
Yeah.
So being in the position to see a team win was insane. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever see that for a while. So
Maybe you'll see it again next year.
Maybe.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
well,
Do you have memories of 2010 and 2011, Alex?
very faint memories. I remember them being upset.
Yeah.
I remember watching us against the Giants and losing terribly in that series. But I don't really remember too much of the Cardinal series. I remember the Giants.
That's good. I think that would fall into the category of childhood trauma if you did remember the 2011 World Series.
Oh yeah, I finally can forgive Cruz. It took that long, but now I can forgive him. So
Yeah, and the Rangers are going to St. Louis this year, and it's always been so weird to go to St. Louis where they still, I don't know if they still do, but they still had that golf sign on the right field wall where Cruz didn't catch the fly ball. And our booth is over on the third base side, so that we're really just staring at it the whole game. They might as well have a chalk outline of Cruz on the warning track. But this year, I don't think it's going to bother me. I'm real curious to see what my reaction will be when we go to St. Louis.
Yeah.
The thought of watching the play again doesn't cause me to get nauseous the way that it did. I haven't exactly done it. I haven't gone and sought it out. But if it came on TV, on something I was watching, I don't think I would turn away the way I always have in the past. I think I'd actually watch it.
we have the swagger and confidence now that we can actually look at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the good thing is I've probably seen Corey Seager's game one home run every single day since then.
Oh
I've
yeah.
probably watched it.
It balances out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something, and something does happen, it seems, every day that reminds me that the Rangers really did win.
Mhm.
That this is real,
Yeah.
and not just something we're imagining or something that we're dreaming. And it's great, here we are closer to the start of the new season than we are to the end of last season. And it seems like everybody is still in a state of euphoria over the whole thing. It's really wonderful.
It's like, do we really have to play again? Can we just keep this and do it again? So I wanted to mention, we know all the big players. We know, gosh, help me name players, Alex. You got Seager, Simeon, all those guys, all the big guys. Who are some of the players that you saw on a day-to-day basis that you think were the keys to the team beyond the superstar guys?
Well, I think one of the keys was in the first half of the season when the Rangers kept having all these injuries and guys would step in and play really well. Travis Jankowski doing such a great job in the outfield. He was one guy. He was also, a veteran guy. He'd been around, had a leadership role on the team. I think was very, very important. And, when Seager went down the first half of the season, Ezekiel Duran did a phenomenal job filling in for him and hit like crazy. And I think he's a guy to keep in mind, especially as the Rangers head to camp this year with an open DH job, and on paper anyway, my guess is right now Durant is the favorite to be an everyday DH. And, I don't have any doubt that he'll be very productive if he winds up winning that job. I know Wyatt Langford's in the picture too, and Justin Foskey will be competing for that job. But I would be very comfortable with Duran as an everyday designated hitter. I know he hit better last year when he played the position than when he was the DH. Takes a while for young guys to adjust to that, but I think he can do that.
Who's a pitcher that you think? Because man, the pitching staff really did turn around, especially through the playoffs. But who's a pitcher that we wouldn't maybe think of off the top of our head that you saw that really helped the team win?
Well, Dunning was the guy who stepped in, when DeGrom got hurt. First Dunning was brilliant as a reliever the first month of the season. Then DeGrom got hurt about a week into May. Dunning moved into the rotation, and they didn't miss a beat. He actually pitched better than DeGrom had been pitching. So, I think he's the guy who you look at as, probably the most valuable guy on the pitching staff, not necessarily the guy you would have thought of. Evaldi and Montgomery immediately come to mind, but Montgomery was only there for the last 2 months, although it doesn't seem like it now, does it? It seemed like he was there the whole year as much as he pitched in the playoffs. But obviously Evaldi, but I think Dunning's the guy, we need to keep in mind, because of the great job he did in both roles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you have any inside information on Monty? Is he coming back?
I have no inside information. It seems to me.
Story, Eric.
Nah, the fact that he hasn't signed yet tells me that he wants to re-sign with the Rangers. The Rangers, because of the question mark regarding their television rights, are probably not in a position yet to make a definitive offer. And fortunately, he's been willing to wait. I don't know how long he'll be willing to wait. At some point, he might get an offer from another team that says this offer is only on the table for 24 hours or 48 hours or something like that. And he may feel he needs to take the money. But, I'm sure the conversation with the Rangers is ongoing regarding the kind of contracts the Rangers can offer him if in some way the television situation gets resolved, to the Rangers' satisfaction. Unfortunately, the deadline keeps getting moved back. The last I heard, February 1st was some sort of deadline for Bally or Diamond or whoever's actually making the offer to make another offer to the Rangers, for less than the $100 million the Rangers were expecting to get, but hopefully not that much less.
Yeah, I think I saw a barbecue place is offering Monty free. Yeah, is it
Hurtado's?
Hurtado's is offering him what, Alex?
Free barbecue for life.
Yeah, if he'll come back to the Rangers. So
yeah, how can he pass on that? That should put it over the top.
You don't really need the money, you know what I'm saying? So let's get back to the playoff run. What are some key moments before the World Series that you remember in your mind that stood out to you before we got to the World Series?
The play of Evan Carter. He did something exceptional every game, whether it was offensively or defensively. You go back to the very first inning in Tampa in game 1, and he made a diving catch in left field. And had he not done that, the Rangers, might very well have been playing from behind in that game, and it changes the entire nature of that game. That play was huge. The play that Montgomery made on the bunt where he dove toward the first baseline and the entire world shook when his 260 pounds hit the ground. That's a play that stands out in my mind too. They were very early, in the postseason. Then the grand slam that Garver hit in Baltimore, which kind of punctuated that win. Those are plays that come to mind. But overall, the play of Carter, eventually moving up from 9th in the batting order, right up into the heart of the order as a kid who'd played 1 month in the major leagues. Hard to believe, really.
Is he human? He's like 21, right?
Yeah.
My age.
Yeah.
How is he so calm and I'm just going to go do this?
I think he's just a freak. He's just naturally really, really calm and obviously extremely confident in himself. I think his strong faith probably has a lot to do with it. But he is so mature so far beyond his years. He's like a wise older man in a 21-year-old body.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I don't think I've ever seen anybody quite like that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that they call him full count because he always works the pitcher. And that's kind of it seems like an lost art, like to really work a pitcher and make him throw pitches. So it's just, I think that helps the whole lineup. You can see more pitches from the pitcher, and it kind of wears down the pitcher when they're having to pitch to the same guy a lot.
Well, once you go
No doubt. And it's something that they preach. Well, every team really preaches it. And, the Rangers have some guys who are pretty good at it. Nathaniel Lowe, in particular, is a guy who always seems to be working the count. But for Carter to do it at age 21 and having done it all through the minors, to pick up that nickname in the minors, again, it's really rare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it ties to the fact of our lineup being deadly now, is because you have to go through Simeon, Seager, and Carter and Adolis. So you have to worry about Seager, and after you're done with worrying about Seager, then you have to you're already done with Seager. Oh my gosh, that was already a long at bat, and then you get to Evan Carter, and then boom, you're there for another long at bat. You're going to be there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how Bochy sets the lineup up this year. Whether he continues it the way he has with Simeon at the top, or whether he puts Carter at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot will have to do with Simeon's opinion on the thing. If he is, adamant about preferring being in the leadoff spot, then I don't imagine Bochy will make a change. But if he's, if he's okay with dropping down to second, then it might make sense to let Carter lead off and then move it second, Seager down to third, and who knows. But obviously, what they did last year worked.
Oh yeah,
and
everything seemed to work. It's one of those years.
And with the exception of Garver, they have everybody coming back, so they could easily just keep it the way it was, and whoever the new DH is, plug him in where Garver was, whether whoever wins the job, and go from there.
Okay, so let's talk about, now we're getting to the series. Talk about game one. And I want to ask you a question. Why does anyone give Seager a first pitch to hit? And then just talk us through that whole call when he hit that home run at the end of the game to tie it up.
It's a good question. With a guy on base, part of the reason is, he's got Adolis normally, sitting behind him. Adolis, of course, got hurt and missed the last couple of games, but in game one, Adolis is sitting there behind him. And that's one of the reasons that, you can't just pitch around Seager. And I don't imagine the pitch was exactly where the pitcher wanted it to be. Pitchers make mistakes all the time. Only 50% of the time or something like that, pitchers actually, hit the target where they're trying to throw the ball. So it does seem in retrospect, really stupid to give him anything to hit. But, to that point, Adolis was the guy who was carrying the team and not Seager. It was Adolis who was the MVP of the ALCS. He's the guy they didn't want coming up with two people on base, and a chance to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, with Seager, just to see that emotion that he had at that moment, we don't see that from him. Like, the public doesn't see that from him. But I heard people talking of, he is that emotional because he's so serious about winning. Mm-hmm. So do you see that in him? Like, it was cool to see that emotion from him for like the first time, I think.
Mm-hmm. I never saw it in the regular season. The players say they saw it in the postseason before the World Series on some of his home runs, but we definitely didn't see it during the regular season. This guy plays to win the World Series. He plays to be in the World Series and to win the World Series. I think he's wired a lot differently from everybody else.
And when he did that, that was the moment that I thought, okay, we could win this World Series. Even though he just tied it up, I was like, okay, we could actually win this. Mm-hmm. And I try not to think that because I'm a Ranger fan.
And you expect the worst, but going into the series as they were in 2010 and 2011, on paper, the Rangers were the better team. There wasn't any question about it. But in that first game, they were outplayed for 8 innings. It wasn't even close. Mm-hmm. And to somehow pull out a win, or even a chance to win when Seager hit the home run, despite the fact they'd been outplayed, and their offense had been completely shut down. Um, that did make you think that, things are going to go our way, only to have the total disaster of game two maybe change your mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think a big thing about game one of the World Series and winning at home was you lost everything. You lost every single home game against the Astros. So to be that demoralized coming back into your home stadium, trying to win a World Series game, I feel like that punctuation for with Seager and Adolis was like the turning point of we can win at home now. We can win this World Series.
Yeah, you're right. I think the way they won that game was really important.
Yeah.
So why do you think the home teams could not win? It just what is it?
No
Just
explanation.
yeah.
I've heard everybody in the world interviewed on the subject, and there is no explanation.
It's just what it was.
It's washes. It's washes. That's the way baseball go, and
Yeah.
there's nothing more complicated than that.
Well, we'll go. The only thing I was like kind of looking forward to going to the Astros series is I knew how bad the Astros were at home this year. They had a losing record at home the entire year. So going into it, I was like, I know the Astros play not great in their home, but looking at the stats, they smoke us. The Globe Life Field, they love it. So that's what I was worried about. But I knew we had the advantage with having more away games, which sounds completely weird. But to see more away games was actually made me more happy at the beginning of the series because I knew we could probably win these away games more than we can win the home games.
Yeah, and it was also odd because the Rangers were not a good road team in the regular season. They had a losing record in the regular season.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go to Houston where the Astros didn't win in the regular season, but the Rangers didn't win on the road during the regular season. So how do you explain it? You really can't. It's just one of those baseball things.
Yeah, I think the baseball gods are finally with it. I don't know. This team doesn't make any sense. When you look at all the details of it, it doesn't make sense that they won.
With the bullpen.
Yeah.
No, they're the first team ever to even get to the postseason where they had more blown saves than they had saves. They're the first team ever to win the World Series after losing as many games as they did the previous 2 years, 196 games or whatever it was over 2 seasons. Nobody had ever done that before. There's a whole long list of things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, how many years have you been doing Rangers?
This will be the 46th.
Okay, do you have any idea how many games that is?
It's over 6,000, but
my
I don't have an exact count.
So after 6,000 games, and we've talked
crazy.
about all the futility and everything that's happened, tell us about the final call when you could say the Rangers were World Series champions. What was that like? Like personally for you, what was that like after all this bad baseball and some good baseball? But
yeah, it was surreal. It was, incredibly exciting, especially as we got to anticipate it when Simeon hit the home run in the top of the ninth in Game 5. So it seemed like, even the Rangers can't blow this lead. And started preparing mentally, for a final call. I had thought during the day, the Rangers had a pretty good chance of winning that game with Eovaldi pitching. I expected to win that night. So I started thinking about, something I might say or something I really needed to say. And the one thing I came up with during the day was, Ranger fans, you're not dreaming. Because that's how I felt all day, is that I was dreaming. So I wanted to make sure to say that. And otherwise, it really was just a matter of, trying to not screw up the call and hoping that Arizona didn't get people on base and, things, would get hairy. And, I didn't want any additional drama. It was enough trying to win a World Series, after all these years. I didn't need the game to get 5-1 or 5-2 or have the tying run on base or on deck or anything like that. And then when we saw Spores come back out for the ninth inning, where Leclerc had been warming up 3 innings in a row, but had pitched 2 days in a row and, clearly needed a day off. When we saw Spores come out for the ninth inning, it was just classic Bochy, riding the hot hand. And, I'm sure that Jose would have loved to close out the World Series, but at the same time, he knew he needed a day off. And, from what the people in the bullpen tell us, he was the biggest cheerleader there was in the ninth inning. cheering on Spores and hoping that he didn't have to get into the game.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Bochy so much is he's not he looks at analytics, but he's not overly analytical. He'll ride whoever's hot. He'll get the feel from the players first, and then he'll look back at analytics and make a decision. He won't just go.
Yeah, he trusts his eyes, he trusts his gut,
Mm-hmm.
and he trusts his coaches too.
Mm-hmm.
He's really the complete package when it comes to a manager.
Okay,
Yeah.
Eric,
Wait,
did you?
I have a question.
Oh, what do you got?
Eric, real talk here. Did you tear up? Did
That's
you
what I was
cry?
gonna ask.
Did you cry when the Rangers won?
While we were doing the post game, and Jared and Matt and I were doing our reminiscing or whatever that was I did. When I did the final call, I was just completely mentally exhausted and kind of collapsed back into my chair and didn't tear up then, but I did tear up during the post game show. And we were on the air for like, I don't know, 2 hours after the game.
Yeah.
And a couple of points in there, especially for Jared, who grew up in the area, and listened to me as he was a kid. And I don't have any kids, so he's like the closest thing to my getting to work with my own son.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that he said there were, they were pretty poignant.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did you
I'll
think?
tell you when I really did tear up though was during the parade.
Did you?
When they gave the broadcasters our own float, and as we saw the faces of the 500,000 or 600,000 people who were there, saw the joy on their faces, and a lot of them were crying.
Yeah.
It was hard to not be moved and not tear up then. That was an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Did you think of any of your past radio co-hosts or anyone that had been in the organization with you?
I thought of all of them, going back to Mark Holtz, I've worked with for 13 years and who never even got to call a playoff game because he moved to TV the year before the Rangers made the playoffs for the first time. And the TV guys don't get to do any postseason games. It's all national. So I thought about him. I thought about Vince Cotroneo, who was with me for 6 or 7 years, Victor Rojas, who had been there for a long time, none of whom got to, experience this joy. There were quite a few ran through my mind. Steve Busby being another one who was in the booth with me in 2011, when we were a strike away.
So do you get a ring? Do you get a ring as being part of the team, or?
Yeah, we get a ring. We got rings in 2010, 2011 for winning the American League pennant. As I understand it, there are different caliber of rings. There are 3 or 4 different levels of rings. And the ring that the players get is not the ring that other members of the organization necessarily get. I guess it's up to the owners to decide who gets what ring. And I think it's the same design. I think it's just a matter of how many diamonds there are in the ring. The players get the one with the maximum number of jewels. And my guess is we probably get the level 2 ring, but honestly, I really don't know.
I think your diamonds match up to your salary and you get less as your salary.
Yeah, we definitely won't get what the players get with the minimum salary now closing in on $800,000.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
I still can't believe it. Okay. We should enjoy this as long as we can. But since we have Eric here, do you think they can do it again? It's hard to think ahead so far, but do you think
Sure, they can? Will they? Well, it's very improbable. It hasn't happened since 2000 for a team to go back to back winning the World Series. So the odds are stacked heavily against them. On paper, obviously the Dodgers now have the best team with the moves they've made in the offseason. But that doesn't mean they're going to win, as we know. I think the Rangers definitely are still a starting pitcher or 2 short. Montgomery could certainly go a long way towards solving that. They have these 3 pitchers coming back second half of the season, in Scherzer, DeGrom, and Tyler Mahle. But they've got to get to the second half of the season in position to win or at least make the playoffs. And in order to do that, I think they definitely need another starter, maybe another veteran reliever too. If they're able to make those moves, given the budget constraints caused by the TV situation, I'll feel really good about their chances.
Yeah.
That's just like sports, isn't it? Like you win it all, and then you just got to go straight
Back
into
into it.
how do we do it again?
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think, Alex? Do you think they can win it all again?
I think they have to make a few moves. My big thing is Wyatt Langford. I think if Wyatt Langford can come up like Evan Carter did, we have Garver. We don't need Garver anymore. Wyatt Langford's in that spot. And who I want to get, the big trade candidate is Devin Williams from the Brewers. That's who my dream closer would be right now, is to get Devin Williams. But obviously it's a high asking price. But if we can make a few more moves, I think we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because really the Rangers have lost very few players compared to most teams who win the World Series. The Rangers just didn't have a long list of really important free agents. You know, I assume they're not going to re-sign Chapman. Stratton's gone, and Smith is gone. Guys they were probably looking to replace in the bullpen anyway. I think Tyler Yates was a good signing. And they also, the under the radar signing so far is Jose Urena. This guy was the opening day starting pitcher for the Marlins 3 years in a row. And granted, they weren't very good, but he was considered the best guy on their staff. And, you know, he's had a couple of years not as good, but, you know, it's one of these deals where the Rangers will get a look at him and they'll start working with him in the pitching lab, you know, whatever the heck that is. And, you know, maybe by the time we, you know, come out of spring training, you know, he's sitting in the number 5 starting job, and a guy like Cody Bradford, you know, or Dunning can go back to the bullpen, you know, and serve the important purpose out there. So I wouldn't count out Jose Urena. I know Mike Maddox is very high on him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, there's a lot to think about for next season, but we do know that the Rangers have won the World Series.
It's a true statement.
Yeah, they can't take that away. There's
That's
a
right.
trophy with our name on it that's
Right.
going all around Texas now.
Yeah.
And it's the hard evidence. It really happened.
Well, you know, Alex was started this Corey's Corner thing. They made signs for him. He's got the signs to prove it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the Corey's Corner signs, got to take him in and have Chuck Morgan signed them. And so that was really cool for him to
We
be
need
a
to get
part of
Eric
that.
to sign him
Yeah.
at some
You
point.
need to
Yeah.
get Eric to sign him. Maybe we'll have to meet sometime to
Eric
do
too.
that. It, then,
Way to go. Yeah, just go to the press box elevator and they'll track me down.
All right.
Cool. We'll do that.
We'll do
But
that.
just know, if you ever see those signs in the stands, you know it's gonna be a loud game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Corey's
Right.
Corner will be back for definitely next season.
Oh, yeah.
They're definitely re-signed.
Sounds great. I will look forward to that.
They're going to be the cheapest ones to sign. I don't think.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they pay to be there.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, we appreciate it, man. It's so good to be able to talk to you again, and it's so good to be able to talk about the Rangers winning it all.
That's
So,
right.
Sure thing.
Yes.
Sure thing. It's as good as I hoped it would be. Always fun to be with you guys. Thanks.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you
thanks,
so
Eric.
much. Thank you.
We'll
Bye-bye.
see ya.
It's so nice to see Eric so happy. 9,000? Did he say 6,000? No,
6,000.
6,000 games
Yeah.
of Ranger baseball.
Yeah.
And he finally got to say that they won the World Series. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine.
A lot of games.
It's been along for me, but I haven't watched 6,000 games.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what I really loved? I loved watching him interact with Alex because they've got a little same wavelength going on there.
Yeah.
Like they both speak stats well, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like the Jedi Master and the Padawan. They're got that relationship going on.
Alex, you could learn a lot from him.
Yep.
I would love to.
So it's just so nice that we can have this moment. I know we have to start thinking about next season, but it was nice just to have this moment to just revel in the awesome reality.
Yeah,
Like Eric said, it's not a dream. The Rangers won the World Series.
that's right. Yeah, and so next year, Alex, Section 133 is still going at it, right?
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah, so
Book it.
yeah, already people should be buying tickets for that because it's going to sell out. And last year, you guys spilled over into 132 and 131, right?
And 129.
Did you really?
Everywhere. Yeah. All sections.
You're taking
Whole
over.
area.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And what was so cool is like you got interviewed by like some Japanese reporters. I mean, it was like quite the big deal. I got my little Corey's Corner shirt on. I mean, the Rangers made shirts for your little thing and handed them out. So I guess there's only one more thing to say. I wonder what would happen if the Rangers never won the World Series.
I guess we'll never know.
Party 5.5, over and out.
We'll see you next time.